The Chinese filmmaker Wong Kar-wai has always been known for making movies with an outstanding combination of score and cinematography. Though like in the 90s or the 2000s, he hasn't really created a great film since the 2010s, but still is undoubtedly one of the most well-known living directors. Finally finishing all his movies except the short ones, I decided to do a ranking, and here I am, which is totally based on my personal choice. Wong Kar-wai has made two martial art movies, one in the 2010s and this in the 90s. Ashes of Time has great visuals, outstanding color grading and a beautiful score as expected from Wong Kar-wai. Also a poetic narrative and an ambitious style, but above all, this is a film that just didn't connect with me. I slept in the middle, I had no idea what was going on, and even all that good cinematography, visuals, writing, they literally had no impact on me. But I believe it not to be a bad movie because it actually does right almost in every corner. It's only people's taste that matters while enjoying a piece of art like this, but I think it's just the least good Wong Kar-wai film. The other Wong Kar-wai Kung Fu picture had the same effect on me as Ashes of Time, but it was even more of a bore because of the length. But the reason it's above Ashes of Time is because of its action sequences. They always kept me engaged, and I can guess it has the best action from any other Wong Kar-wai film. The Grandmaster is based on real life events that cover various characters and their complete lifespan. One thing I felt was the writing of the Grandmaster was rather shallow. The dialogue was so obvious and barely had any speciality. Days of Being Wild centers around a playboy who comes to know that the woman who had raised him isn't his real mother. Days of Being Wild is dramatic and subtle, and often considered the beginning of Wong Kar-wai's series of romance films that reflect solitude, longing and love. Days of Being Wild was a good film. The reason it's not higher is it felt very common to me, oddly typical. Specifically the two women, the character of Maggie Chung and Kalina Lau, whose affections towards one man who barely even cares about them isn't really my thing. Maggie Chung was great though. The story of As Tears Go By felt more like an Edward Young film than a Wong Kar-wai. I believe Edward Young could have actually handled the story 2 times better than Wong Kar-wai, but it was still a great watch. As Tears Go By briefly brings out the issues of pride and ego during 80s China. It covers an odd romance that basically is incest, but nobody really talks about that. Neither the film, but that's not an issue. It was great. Above all, As Tears Go By is not much like other Wong Kar-wai movies that emphasize a lot on the romance tale, but it looks more to the toxic masculinity and it's pretty interesting aftermath. His only English language film, My Blueberry Nights, had really impressed me. I went in with a hope for his least good movie, and the first few minutes were actually proving me right, but then slowly, as long as it went by, it only got better. The story centers around a young woman who befriends a local restaurant owner after breaking up. She also decides to engage on her own journey and buy her own car. And through the journey, she met different people that combinedly almost had the same situation as her. It was poetic. At first, it felt like a poor try of recreating his own movie in the English language, but it was some really aesthetically gorgeous drama, where my favorite part was the character of Natalie Portman. The Hand is one of the 3 films from the 2004 anthology picture named AIOS with 2 other featured directors, Steven Soderbergh and Michelangelo Antonioni. Wong Kar-wai's version had an extended cut released in 2020 by Criterion, though I hadn't seen that version, but the main one of 46 minutes of length still moved me. It was about a tailor who had a sexual encounter with one of the women he had worked to make clothes for, but as a forbidden affair, it obviously didn't end perfectly. It had the beautiful touch of Kar-wai. It was melancholic and so seductive. What I find is most interesting about how Wong Kar-wai during the time of the 90s brings out a beautiful homosexual relationship so straightforwardly without much consent of the society even in the film or the outside. He treats the couple like any other straight couple he handled. It was not so musical but very poetic, filled with great performances and as usual gorgeous visuals. It was sad and one of the best Wong Kar-wai that is never so easy to put down in words, but films where one feel the words and live along with them. 2046 is an unconventional sequel, a sequel to his masterpiece In the Mood for Love. Solely, it's about a science fiction writer who writes about a train whose destination is a place called 2046, a train where people get in the hope of proclaiming their past memories. The film handles various stories of its main character at a different time and mixes them up. That is, at the surface, rather very confusing, but that doesn't matter. It's lyrical and stunning. That is truly an original film, even if I can say a notable sci-fi movie of this century. Chungking Space handles two parallel romantic tales wherein every character is isolated in their personal means. They all have picked up their ways to keep up with loneliness, and it goes all fine until they have some connections with each other. Chungking Space rather feels so simple on the first watch, but the more one thinks about it, the more it flourishes. It has a melancholic and beautiful tone hidden inside its every moment so gently and carefully. I really don't know what more to say about it. It's just amazing. That's all I guess I can word down of this poem. Hardly ever have a film impressed me as much as Fallen Angels. The way it's shot is everything about this film. It was all to connect with me and my heart. Once again, I will not go into the story because to be honest, I don't even remember that in detail, which applies to every Wong Kar-wai movie. I never cared about the story as much as the vibes, the characters and their spoken words. In that manner, Fallen Angels is easily one of his most impressively shot. These have always impressed me with the fact that it's a film released in the 1990s. There were actually very few great uses of light in the movies before the 2000s. Fallen Angels not just had that but also had a perfect use of camera work, objectifying and noticing characters' faces for its whole runtime that was consistent, and it was really a unique way of capturing emotion that I wouldn't know was possible until I saw this. It's very common to consider In the Mood for Love as Wong Kar-wai's best movie, but why wouldn't it be? It's perfect. It tells the stories that even a 100,000 word novel can write. In the Mood for Love is everything a romance film can or should be. I watched the film 5 times and would like to watch it even more. Nothing I can say has already been said about this film. I can only share my feeling about this movie, which is even rather hard because how can I? It's a Wong Kar-wai film and I'm just me. Hey there, that was the video. Check out the older videos of this channel if you want. Also, if you have come this far watching, I am sure you too are trying to finish Wong Kar-wai filmography, which I definitely suggest. Until then, bye and take care.